Now we are going to work with a distance-time graph. Let's remember the basics of this kind of graph. We know that in the x-axis we have time. This is seconds, minutes, hours, and since we don't have the units in this graph, it could be any of these. And in the y-axis we have distance. This could be centimeters, meters, kilometers, mostly, but since we don't know it, we need to infer this information. We need to draw conclusions with the information that we have. So let's read the instructions. The distance-time graph above shows the motion of a student walking to a convenience store for a loaf of bread and returning home. Use the graph to answer questions 1 through 5. Okay, so we know that this student is walking. Since he is walking, we know, or we could draw a conclusion. This could be meters or kilometers, but let's say that these are meters, and this could be minutes. So let's read question number 1. In which segment was the student moving at the lowest rate of speed? Now we know that the student was moving from his house to the convenience store. At the convenience store he stopped for a while. Then he started returning home, stopped again for some reason, and returned home. Now if you look at this graph, you know that in this segment he was moving at a consistent speed. For every unit of time he was walking the same amount of units of distance. Now in this segment is the same. For 1 unit of time he walks 1 unit of distance. But in this last segment, for 4 units of time he only walks 2 units of distance. So we know that this last segment was the slowest. So the answer is E. Now let's look at question number 2. In which segment indicates that the student might be stopped at the convenience store? So we could say that it is B. When we find a horizontal line in a distance-time graph, we know that the object stopped for a while, the person didn't move, the person rested, the dog rested, whatever is moving stopped. It didn't move further from the origin or going back to the origin. So we could say that it was segment B, because it's the farthest one. B. Now we say this was E and this was B. In which 2 segments was the student moving at the fastest rate of speed? They are asking us for 2 segments that have the same amount of speed. Speed equals distance divided by time. So for every unit of distance we need to have a unit of time. In other words, we have 2 segments here, as I told a few moments ago, that for every unit of time the student is walking the same amount of distance. So as you can see, for 1 unit of time it walks the same 1 unit of distance. For 2 units of time, 2 units of distance. 3, and here is the same. For 1. So we know that these 2 segments have the same speed, and we already knew from question number 1 that this was slower. So we know that the answer is going to be A and C. Now let's look at question number 4 to see if we can answer that one. In which segment might the student be waiting for a traffic light? So he stopped again. We can see that he stopped again in segment D. It was a short stop because at the convenience store he might have taken a longer time to buy the loaf of bread. So let's say this is D. And last but not least, which took longer, walking to the store or walking home? We just need to look at the units of time. We know that he arrived at the store at this moment. He started going from home here and went to the store. So we have 1, 2, 3 units of time going to the store. And then he started walking back. But he took longer, as you can see. He took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because he got a traffic light and because he might be walking at a slower speed here. So we know that walking home took longer.